Of a debate that is raging across the world. All across the world, you've got a lot of what we're facing here. Too many years of stagnant wages, rising inequality, declining upward mobility, frustration for people everywhere, and people then having identity conflicts rooted in our differences. I mean, look at this crowd. California and sort of our beacon for diversity. We have always understood that we were stronger if we embraced our differences. This community has the highest percentage of Japanese Americans of any city in California. It's hard to remember now, but leading up to and after World War II, a lot of our fellow citizens who were Japanese were interned in camps. Two of them were in my native state of Arkansas. And a friend of mine, who's now almost 90, was so appalled at what had happened to the Japanese Americans that she went in to teach the children and to make sure the communities at least treated them as respectful guests. And she spent a whole lifetime trying to recover the history of what happened there to make sure no one ever, and we never did anything like that again. And now here we are, talking about building a wall between the U.S. and Mexico. Talking about not letting any more Muslims in America. One of the reasons I have been so proud of Hillary in this campaign is that she was the first person to say, and at every speech reminds us, that California suffered the most recent terrorist incident at San Bernardino, and the people who perpetrated it were converted over the internet, over the social media. So you can build all the walls you want. Have at it across the Rio Grande River. You can build a wall across the Canadian border. A lot of foreigners in Canada, you know. You can build a seawall across the Pacific. Now we're in a recession. Then you can build your seawall across the Atlantic. We're verging on a full-scale depression. Then you send the Navy to the Gulf of Mexico to block everybody out. Oh, we have to send all the airplanes. Get the Air Force up in the sky. You still can't keep the social media. Which is why Hillary said, embrace our diversity and tell people that ought to be the model. We need Muslims who love freedom and hate terror to help us win the battle of hearts and minds over the social media that we can do together. All over the world, people are looking. What are we going to do? Yes, everybody has virtually faced in every country stagnant wages, rising inequality, declining upward mobility. What are we going to do about it? Can we do something about it? When someone says make America great again, you know what that means? That's a code phrase. It means, okay, we can't do much about it, so I'll go back to where it used to be, and you and your crowd will get a bigger piece of a static pie. You really want to spend a modern infrastructure in transportation, in water pipes, so no children have elevated blood levels in their blood from rusty pipes. If we put up 500 million solar panels in 4 years and the rest of America learns, they may not be as sunny as California, but they can do as well with cheap, clean energy that liberates us from climate change and puts America to work. If we bring back modern manufacturing jobs that you can do anywhere in the world, because labor costs are not the factor anymore that transportation materials and energy are. You give us cheap, clean energy, and you give us a skilled workforce, we can save the transportation costs. We got the biggest market in the world. We can make anything in America. And we have to remember that we're still, in the end, a small business country. 2/3 of our jobs come from the kind of people you see every day on the street in Torrance. And the United States has a law that I enforce vigorously called the Community Reinvestment Act. We lost a lot of that in the crash. We had to stop Wall Street from wrecking Main Street again. But you don't want Wall Street to indirectly strangle Main Street because banks don't make loans to small businesses. She will reinforce that law again and get ourselves going from the grassroots up to small business. Now, if you do that, we can all rise together if we get the barriers down. Barrier number one. There are too many people carrying too much college debt around. And there are too many people who are afraid they can't finish. And there are too many people who get perfectly good jobs without a four-year college degree if they had skills training, and we re-dignified skills training in America and made it popular to do what the economy needs. So she proposes to invest a lot of money in training people to do the jobs for which there is a shortage in America today. And just so you don't think I'm making this up, I was in Louisiana not very long ago, and I asked the mayor of New Orleans, I said, a friend of mine from here just called me and said that there were 7,600 jobs open just for welders south of New Orleans, between New Orleans and the Gulf of Mexico. Is that possible? He said, oh yeah, and I could fill them within 3 square blocks if we had the training. Hillary wants to give them the training. Everywhere in America, here. Second, she wants people to be able to graduate from college debt-free. Now, there's been a difference in this primary because tuition-free college at public schools sounds good. The problem is that plan requires every state to come up with a third of the money. I haven't talked to a single member of the California legislature, the most progressive legislature in America, that gave you the $15 minimum wage, that's giving you paid leave, that's giving you all these things we need, who says that you can afford to do that. Under Hillary's plan, you don't tax legislators that are overburdened, and you don't burden legislatures who aren't interested, and there's a lot of them that aren't interested in this. Instead, she says we can have debt-free without asking the states to come up with the money. How do you do it? First, you include more than public schools. You include historically black colleges and universities, small private schools that are dealing with people from working class families, first and second generation immigrants. You give everybody who needs free tuition, free tuition. The ones who need more, you give more with a Pell Grant increase. The ones that are kind of caught in the middle and can't pay the whole way, you give 10 hours a week free. That's the most important thing. Then, that's all they have. The big question now is, what about people who've got debt they've already run out? How many of you know somebody like that? Raise your hand. Look at this. Okay, so I have been a walking social science project in this campaign. Now, I talk to people like this everywhere I go. And I'll just give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I went up to this little town north of where Hillary and I live, and I bought a pair of jeans from a lady I know because I knew she had a child who was finishing one of our state universities in New York. I said, how's your boy doing? She said, oh, he's doing great. He made a great job, great grades. He's going to get a good job. I said, does he have any debt? She said, quite a bit. What's the interest rate? 9%.
Hey.
I said, you still have a home mortgage? She said, sure I do. Did you refinance it? She said, of course. What's your interest rate? Under 4. So the first thing is, we need to know this. A college loan is the only loan in the entire United States that you cannot refinance. Hillary says, let's let everybody refinance, and 25 million young Americans would save an average of $2,000 overnight, and the more they owe, the more they would save. That could help everybody right away. Secondly, she wants to give everybody 2 options to get rid of the debt they've got. One is if they have a debt anywhere around the national average, which is approximately, is now up to about $25,000, 24,500 to 25,000. So her numbers were done 15 months ago, but you get the idea. Her plan would allow any young American who's willing to do 2 years in an AmeriCorps National Service Program and then come home and do 1 year of any kind of public service related work. That is, you work in a drug treatment center, you can work as a firefighter, you can work as a teacher's aide, anything that's public service related, you do that, you get over and above your pay $23,500 totally tax-free to throw against the debt and get rid of it. Now, if you don't want to do that, or you can't, you have the other option. You can turn your college debt into a mortgage, like your home mortgage. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everybody in this audience who's under 30 has a legitimate chance to live to be 100 years old, and to do it without the specter of Alzheimer's or other dementia because of the advances in biomedical research. Therefore, your college education is worth more than any home you will ever own. Why do you get 20 to 30 years to pay off a home at a fixed rate every month, which allows you to go on with your life, and not your college education? So she would say, no matter how much you owe, you should be able to pay your loan off over 20 years and never have to pay more than 10% of your after-tax income per month on that loan. And if you pay it for 20 years and you still owe something, the rest would be forgiven. Now think what this would do. And by the way, we're talking, you'd owe 10% if you borrowed $200,000 to go to med school. Or I met a young lawyer from California who'd already spent a year as a deputy prosecutor who owed $100,000 because she went to law school. So think what would happen. First, everybody can move out of their parents' house. Now we're laughing. This is a huge issue. There are huge numbers of Americans that can't move out of their parents' house because they can't make a rent payment and a loan payment. Second, if you had a job you'd like to take because you love the work, but it pays less than the one you got, you can't do it today because you wouldn't be able to make the loan payment. You could under this system because if your income goes down, your loan payment goes down. Third, suppose all your life what you really wanted to do was start a little business. Say you wanted to open an organic bakery in Torrance. Well, if you got a loan, college loan debt, you're toast. You can't go to a bank and get a loan. Your credit rating's shot. But you could if you had this system. Why? Because the banker would see, number one, you won't be ever have to pay more than 10% of your after-tax income per month. And two, if like most small businesses, you don't make any money for a year or two, you won't owe anything on the loan because it's tied to your income. If we did this, it could liberate the energies of millions and millions of young Americans so we could all rise together. That's what America needs. Second thing we need to do is quit playing politics with immigration reform and pass a comprehensive immigration reform act. There are 11.5 million of our fellow citizens are people that share this, undocumented American people, living with about 5 million people who are here either with full documentation or full citizenship, that every day's life is a question of what happens to DACA and DAPA. Will the kids be kicked out of school? Will the families be divided? Will all these things happen? This is crazy. Look at you. We have the youngest, most diverse workforce of any big economy in the world. It is a priceless asset. Why are we debasing our best asset instead of enhancing it? That is what we should be doing, and it will be a top priority for Hillary to pass that. I can tell you, in the last 10 years, we've only had one chance to pass comprehensive immigration reform, in 2007. Because for all my disagreements with it, at least President George W. Bush wasn't afraid of immigrants. That is, he was prepared to go compete for their votes and, just be normal. There's only one person left in this race who voted for that bill and embraced it when the farm workers said vote for it, when all the immigrants said vote for it, one person, that's Hillary. You know she cares about this. And you should vote. I'm going to put this up here, maybe we'll hold on. Third thing we need to do is to recognize if we're going to lift the economy together, we have to get more women in the workforce. Now, I served before, and we all rose together. We moved 100 times as many people from poverty into the middle class as when President Reagan was in office by getting rid of trickle-down economics and maximizing human potential. We were always in the top 10 countries in the world in the percentage of women in the workforce. We're down to 19th now. And that's because we're one of only 7 countries in the world that doesn't have paid leave. It's going to be just like yesterday. I am disempowered. I cannot help my children. I cannot broaden my horizons. On the other hand, the most empowering thing is to know you can change things for the better for yourselves, your children, your grandchildren, your communities. That's what this whole election's about. If you're not willing to give up on the promise that is all around us, and if we had till tomorrow morning, I could keep you here telling you stories that would make you believe it. I would tell you